Often the lion is described as a bulkier animal and the tiger as a slender animal. Zoological facts considered the lion as a species bulkier than all tiger subspecies. Tigers are far more sleeker and narrower than lions. People mistake seeing the tiger's arms in pics and thinking the whole cat is huge and thick, but it's just not true. Tigers are longer in the body and rear quarters than the lions, but tigers are not stout and thick. They are actually very narrow. Check the upper back volume and thickness. Check the muscles along the trunk of the spine. Notice tigers are not that thick. There is a narrowness in that upper back area. I made a mistake on my first video by naming this tiger as collie because of this post. Someone pointed this out in the comments. He's both right and wrong. He's right about this not being collie, but he's also wrong about naming this to a different tiger. The real name of this tiger is KZT23, but the point still remains. Collie and KZT23 do not have that massive shoulder hump or the trapezius muscle. The biggest differences between lions and tigers is the lion's larger chest, back, shoulders, midsection and hind legs, while the tiger is its thicker forearm and wrist. The lion's rear quarter, although is shorter, but its whole back is straighter and thicker. Tiger's longer, rising rear quarters for springing attacks, smaller lighter front quarters to lighten its frame when jumping, and allowing itself to stand better bipedally. Notice the tiger's streamlined and elongated body. It has an added length in the rear quarters, specifically the lumbar region. The lion is thicker than long in this area. A lot of tiger fans see that the lion doesn't have a particularly impressive forearm and conclude it's not big and thick. Lions are built differently, chunky, husky and stout. Their backs look very hard and compact. Their chest went further down, very deep and high. Tigers have the most deceptive physique of the big cat family. It's usually flatter and narrower. Tigers are light to dimensional. The tiger has its typical body design, long narrowed body, yet with muscular lower limbs. It's easily distinguishable how robust the lion's trunk is, even with an empty stomach. Its trunk is barrel shape, and the oblique and latissimus dorsi are prominently bulging. In almost every tiger side pictures, the very narrow upper back is noticeable. Let's really prove the point here. Now look at this pic. Look how the back muscle doesn't have that huge volume. If you try to take a look at its whole upper area, is actually not that thick. There's a narrowness in that whole upper back. This is their typical body design. A long and narrow frame. The tiger not only has a thinner back, but also possesses an extremely bent back. For this obvious reason, tigers are very flexible compared to the lion's very stiff spine. Hence, the tiger has a spine that has a higher degree of range of motion.
Oh my God, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy. You get your goddamn ugly ass on.
Note the lion's back muscle bulging out. Tigers do not have this even at their prime or adult age. Also look closely at the midsection. It's noticeably flat, and the upper back area is very thin. The narrowness and sharpness of that upper back is very noticeable in this angle.
होगी अभी आ रहा है Oh shit, here we go again.
Tigers have very slinky bodies that sway side by side when they walk or run. Look closely at the upper back. It's much different when you view them directly at the rear. Lions are usually not this lanky when they are at their prime and healthy condition.
But what the hell, boy?
See how the gorged belly, the stripes, the angles, the position, the thick and loose skin and the fat, especially at the belly, have a huge influence on making the tiger appear bigger than it really is.
Whoop. Here I come. Oh, here I come.
Oh my God, no way, yeah.
Most people are soaked in the myth of the tiger's physique. Likewise, who would have expected this tiger is lanky? Despite looking very bulky on this angle, almost all people are fooled by these tiger side pictures. It's very deceptive. Again, the lower back or the lumbar column curves up and has that added length. There are countless pics and footages of tigers, notable ones with small shoulders lacking the muscle mass the lion has over them, or the areas around the shoulder or in between them, as well as thin upper backs, smaller necks and smaller trapezius muscle, plus the puffy fur adding volume to the neck. The lion's scapula is overall bigger and it has bigger muscles over it, and the space between the shoulder blades is noticeably wider on the lion's. We have the data to back this up. It's clearly evident the lion's neck and shoulders are thicker than tigers. The argument that tigers have an advantage in the shoulder bone is based on the observation that their scapula has a larger muscle area is due to its quadrangular shape. While this assertion holds some truth for tigers, but this is only a partial truth. This assertion can only hold any weight if lions and tigers both possess a scapula of the same length, which is not the case at all. Therefore, the claim regarding the superiority of the tiger's scapula is unsupported by experts and scientific data. The difference is conclusive and the scapula is in favor of the lion in this study. Here are the values given for the scapular length, and here are the values of their respective scapular shape index. Lastly, they're given forelimb length in this study. An almost 1 inch difference ultimately contributes to its overall size advantage. At the end of the day, the lions still possess an overall larger scapular area for muscle attachment. Again, it is indeed true that the tiger possesses a proportionally wider scapula. However, a lion and tiger scapula of equal length still possess the same scapular area according to this data. The fact that the differences in the supraspinous index and infraspinous index are very small is solid proof tigers do not possess a scapular advantage at all. Remember, the lion has an overall longer scapula. It may seem contradictory that even with the tiger's proportionally wider scapula, it still possesses the same scapular area as the lion's. That's because the widest part of their scapulas are from different areas. Here's a visual reference to prove the point. Fun fact: the lion's scapula is heavier than the tiger's scapula of similar dimensions. However, it is important to note that even the largest tiger scapula in this sample is still lighter in weight than the smallest lion scapula. This further supports the notion that lions are denser than tigers, as they are achieving greater weights with lower volume. Another interesting fact to add is that even at the same scapular length, the lion's scapular spine is larger. This means that the lion's trapezius muscle will have an even larger attachment area because lions have proportionally longer scapula. But again, what these tiger fans don't get is that this is supposed to be the tiger's design. It is not a bear. It is designed for agility, flexibility, speed, and some forearm strength to hold on to its prey. Hence, the reason for the tiger's more developed forearms. I could post pics all day of top famous wild tigers that look exceptionally skinny and narrow, just like Dr. Eric Setzer said. Between the shoulder area and back, tigers are not a stout animal like the lion. But again, they are totally missing the tank-like body armor of the lion. Every lion and tiger that I showed, all the lions have thicker, larger midsection, chest and back. All the tigers are thin and narrow in the whole body compared to the lions. The lion's body is built to take abuse and hunt much larger animals. As well as tigers have to be faster because they have to catch smaller prey. Lions are going to have more endurance and strength in its back and shoulders, neck and jaws for holding on to much larger prey for longer periods of time. Lions need more body strength and agility for such prey. Even the largest tigers are just longer and taller, but not shaped like the lions, and it is quite evident even in this side angle. Tigers are not a stout animal. Because of this as well, I could see the lion is not as graceful as the tiger. The tigers were more agile. The lion is heavier on its feet. They require sharp and deliberate movements. It's thinner and longer, but harder lower limbs are for carrying a heavier body for its size. A lot of the lion's mass is situated up front or up top. There's a lot of misconception with the lion. People always focus on the arms. Strength does not come from only one area of the body. You can miss the muscularity of the lion's arm, because the mane can distract your eyes from really seeing how muscular it is. The only areas thinner on the lion are the lower limbs, yet they are longer. This is so only because the lion's lower limbs are designed to run on a different terrain than the tiger, but it only gives the lion more endurance over the tiger with every stride it takes. So people need to understand the differences in these two big cats and realize it's not just about the arms that matters. The lion exceeds the tiger in mass and strength in its whole body, which is quite a bit. Look at the midsection. It's actually bulging out substantially. You just don't see this on tigers. When I see these lions, I understand what mixed cat trainers and anatomists say about their superiority over the tigers. I already proved this over and over again. No tigers are built like this. If you look at this pic of this young lion, not even fully grown, with little mane, you can see its head and jaw look full. There's a difference. Lions' head are just overall bigger. They are just not longer, but they are larger overall in different places. As well as the lion's neck is often stronger and larger than many tigers. It is important to understand the lion as a species of big cat has more muscle over its shoulder blade than the tiger. The pics reveal this even on smaller and younger lions. Again, we have to show young male lions a lot of the time because they don't have much mane yet. Another young lions with little mane, showing shoulders that are round and muscular with mass on them, not bony like many tigers are. These muscles are larger on the lion, and it helps him what gives it that larger appearance in the upper areas, around the shoulders and neck. The tiger, on the other hand, has thicker fur and skin, and yet its shoulder blades often look bony. The lion, with its thinner skin and fur, has shoulders that appear more round, larger and much more muscular. Again, the larger trapezius muscle that fits over the shoulders, and the upper area contributes to this greater mass. Note how round and muscular the shoulders appear, even with the thinner fur and skin. If the pics I showed of young lions are not even fully grown look as large in the upper area as they do, obviously they are going to get even larger. The whole top portions of the frame are heavier and thicker on the lion. Note the back muscles bulging out. Tigers do not look like this at a young age. The lion will obviously grow even stronger and larger, but the mane will cover most of this by that point. The lion I showed shared these common traits, and their midsections were all larger than every tiger, young or old. The differences of designs are quite different animals who long ago had a common ancestor. Every wild Bengal tiger that I showed is still slender in its whole frame, no matter what. It's always the case. Every single freaking time. We are tired of seeing the lanky physique all over again. This is why in captivity, many experts who raise and work with both cats will say the lion is the much stouter and thicker animal for its size. Hence, we have these quotes. The wild tigers that I showed in the pictures and footages reveal they do not have the thick necks, thick back, or thick muscular shoulder. The tiger has some added length in the rear quarters. The spine is longer and thinner. It curves up towards the rear. The rib cage is narrower and smaller. The tiger is more cat-like, it is sleeker. Lions are the opposite. The lion is thicker than long. The lion is more front-heavy and barrel-chested. The lion's chest goes deeper than tigers as well. The presacral column is divided into 3 sections: the cervical, the thoracic, and the lumbar. By simply computing each vertebral section to the presacral length, and here's the value I got from the calculations on this data. Lions have longer cervical and thoracic vertebrae. Lions have also a shorter back. Tigers, on the other hand, have an overall longer back, meaning that the tiger's lumbar region contributes to their longer back. And yes, lions do have the shortest back among any modern felids.
Additionally, tigers have proportionally larger deltopectoral ridges, meaning that the attachment
You have to learn. Control your hips.
Some of you might wonder why, in this data, jaguars have the shortest lumbar column. Unfortunately, this study used the wrong method. This study elucidates that measuring along the ventral sagittal line, also referred to as the centrum, results in an underestimation of the actual length of the lumbar column by failing to account for the total length of the intervertebral discs within the respective region or division. Lions have relatively the strongest backs of any modern felids. The centrum's relative height given on this graph show the lion's centrum is proportionally or absolutely. It has a superior centrum height from the thoracolumbar. Lions possess not only a thicker centrum but also a longer neural spine in their thoracic vertebrae, and the tiger has a relatively wider transverse processes of the thoracic vertebrae. Furthermore, the lion in this data is positioned towards the negative PC one more than any taxa, indicating that the lion has the most robust processes, medial-laterally the widest vertebrae of any modern felids. The only advantage the other pantherines have over the lion is a slightly taller neural process and craniocaudally longer transverse processes. While these transverse processes are longer, but they are narrower medial-laterally. When we say less cranially inclined transverse processes, we are referring to transverse processes that are not angled as steeply upwards towards the body, compared to others that are more upright or vertical, indicating that these bony structures are positioned at a flatter angle relative to the horizontal plane, rather than being sharply angled upwards towards the body. Although the lion's transverse processes are shorter, but it flares out more and less cranially directed. Thus, lions have the widest and most robust lumbar vertebrae than any living felids. Unlike tiger fans who cannot grasp this data, I, on the other hand, understand it very clearly. First of all, just by looking at the plot. It makes it clear that the position of the cheetah is by definition an outlier. An outlier is a sample that is different from the others in the data set. Second, the study mentions the cheetah is an outlier. Cheetahs do have medial-laterally wider lumbar vertebrae than tigers because of the negative PC1. And yes, cheetahs can pack wider back muscles than tigers, but it comes with a cost. Cheetahs have relatively a craniocaudally longer vertebrae than tigers. Important to note, PC1 must convey the maximum variation among data points and contain minimum error. This would mean the clusters among the horizontal axis are more important than the clusters among the vertical axis. Even the three-dimensional fixed landmarks of the cheetah's lumbar vertebrae makes it clear why cheetah have medialaterally wide lumbar. Again, and the reference is given here, this is what the actual study implies, that this lumbar vertebrae three-dimensional fixed landmarks. The sample that is positioned on the right has a lumbar vertebrae that is medialaterally wide than the left ones, and it is less cranially directed. When they say more cranially directed transverse processes, they talk about these processes as being more pointed towards the front. Again, there are no contradictions, only confirmations. Now, regarding the lion's negative PC1 and negative PC2 implications. The lion's negative PC2 score signifies that its vertebrae are more robust and medialaterally wider with larger end plates and less cranially inclined transverse processes, as described in the excerpt. Although the negative PC2 mentions that the lumbar processes are less cranially inclined and the spinous processes are more anteriorly positioned, but the three-dimensional landmarks of the cheetah contradict the interpretation of its transverse processes inclination and the anteriorly positioned spinous processes. But, again, this is so only because the excerpt and the plot classifies the cheetah is an outlier. This discrepancy only arises from how PC2 correlates with overall vertebral morphology in the plot versus isolated anatomical details in the landmark analysis. Individual deviations, like the transverse process inclination and the position of the spinous process in the cheetah, can exist within this framework. This illustration serves as a guideline or as a reference for the shape of small to large felids lumbar vertebrae. Large felids have vertebrae that is shown on the right, and small felids have vertebrae that is shown on the left. As a rule, as an animal or felid grows larger, its vertebrae becomes wider and more robust and has some morphological change in its shape of the height of the centra, the width of the vertebrae, and etc. But the cheetah, on the other hand, is an exception to the rule. The cheetah has a morphological trait that is associated with large felids, but at the same time has a trait that is associated with small felids. I'm going to predict tiger fans, and I know this will be taken way out of context. Tiger fans are just simply too dishonest. And yes, the tiger is still a typical large felid and have the same trait as a large felid, like this illustration on the right. But remember, it just so happens that lions and other felids on the negative PC1 that is situated more to the left than the tiger have wider vertebrae and less cranially directed transverse processes. You may probably wonder why clouded leopard has wider lumbar than jaguars. Clouded leopards are neither classified as small or large felid. Furthermore, the clouded leopards is the oldest sister taxon to other pantherine cats, and they are pretty much robust for their size. In fact, they are the closest living relative to the saber-toothed cats. Again, another corroborating evidence for the larger joints. Lions have medialaterally the widest lumbar, which enables them to develop larger back muscles. Now you all understand why I have shown you numerous wild tigers with very narrow upper backs.
They were super necessary.
Based on the data, lions exhibit the most robust lumbar processes, which can be visually proven by additional data. Lions have the shortest lumbar vertebral column of any felids. Again, this study reiterates that measuring along the ventral sagittal line is not an appropriate method, as the zygapophyseal joints influence both the intervertebral discs and the entire lumbar column. The lumbar vertebrae have the largest bodies of the entire spine, and an increase in size as the spine descends, a reflection of the responsibility of the lumbar spine of supporting the entire upper body. The lion with the most robust lumbar vertebrae will inherently possess an advantage in its overall spinal structure. And this recent lumbar data further reinforces Christensen's findings, providing corroborating evidence that strengthens or confirms the existing data from both studies. The term dorsoventrally taller refers to a shape that is taller in the vertical axis, or in other words, a greater centrum height, and this shape can better resist both compressive and sagittal bending loads, and supports implications that allometry of centra and discs may help resist increasing loads. Tigers have more cranially and ventrally inclined transverse processes, and according to this excerpt, it is an adaptation for an increase in sagittal mobility or a wider range of motion. The lion, on the other hand, has the shortest lumbar and the least sagittal mobility in the lumbar region, which is advantageous for resisting sagittal forces. Tiger fan wannabe experts misinterpreted this data because this data doesn't suit their personal narratives, so they shrug this off as inconclusive. It would not be possible for tigers to exhibit greater lumbar sagittal mobility if their lumbar centrum height is taller. A greater or taller centrum height limits flexibility, and not the other way around. Tiger fans already lost the mental faculties necessary to debate. They think this is a video game where you can change your avatar stats and max out all the stats.
Snap back to reality.
The real question is this: am I lying when I said lionesses put male Bengal tigers' physique to shame?
Absolutely fucking not.
The sacroiliac joint, commonly referred to as SIJ, is the joint connection between the spine and the pelvis. Tiger fans' argument about tigers having stronger backs than lions is due to the fact that the former possess a significantly smaller interiliac angle. A smaller angle, according to this data, provides better benefit than a larger angle. Guess what other animal has a significantly smaller angle than the lion? The real question is this: does this justify that having a significantly smaller angle will automatically give the cheetah a stronger back than the lion?
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no.
This is the only point that tiger fans can make about tigers having stronger back or spine. This is typical for tiger propagandists, who tend to emphasize on just a single aspect while neglecting the broader advantages that the lions possess. There are more factors that affect spinal stability or mechanics, rather than merely just the sacroiliac angle.
Hey, Metro City.
Tiger fans didn't even realize the centrum height differences are significant. This difference is approximately 1 cm. In this region, the centrum height are consistently significant, especially in the 13th vertebrae, and as shown here, this represents a difference of about 16% in centrum height, which is statistically significant. To put things into perspective, this is what a 16% difference in height looks like to a person who is 5 feet and 1 inch tall, and a person who is 6 feet tall. Furthermore, this is what a 16% height difference in centrum height looks like. These wannabe tiger fan experts think they solve this debate. Tiger fans just happens to have skill issues interpreting this data. These mentally ill tiger fan wannabe expert is deeply frustrated. He's unable to determine if lions and tigers possess the same level of flexibility, yet he contradicts himself by asserting that tigers are more rigid.
Too slow and too stiff. You're stiff as a board. I see stiffness. The vision, slow, stiff.
There are simply no tigers with an upper back volume, a mass this thick. You can see the midsection, the trunk of the spine. The oblique stomach muscles are bigger on the lions. If you put the tiger's thicker coat on this lion and added some fat layers like some Siberians, this lion would look like a mythical creature. See that very wide back. Have you guys seen a bodybuilder that works out? That is the latissimus dorsi right there, which is the largest and thickest muscle located in the back. Since tiger fans do not want to admit that lions have thicker torso, yet they contradict themselves by showing this data. Tiger fans have a very bad luck when it comes to saying anything that involves intelligence. This effectiveness arises because a shorter distance allows for better leverage and force generation when a muscle contracts. while also benefiting from robust muscle under the lumbar fascia. Lions have shorter and more robust sacrum than tigers. The sacrum is a key piece of the vertebrate skeleton, since it connects the caudal region with the presacral region of the vertebral column and the hind limbs through the pelvis. Therefore, understanding its form and function is of great relevance in vertebrate ecomorphology. Moreover, a sacrum shape is significantly associated with locomotor adaptations in carnivores. The lion's sacrum is noted to be more stoutly built, whereas the tiger's sacrum is more slender and elongated. The lion having a stouter sacrum benefits from having larger muscles, larger joints, and a larger auricular surface area than tigers. This data also corroborates well with existing studies, as lions are noted to have larger lumbosacral joints. The seventh lumbar vertebra articulates with the sacrum, therefore it is referred to as the lumbosacral joint. Lions have wider and more robust pelvis than tigers. Lions have a naturally wider and thicker pelvis than tigers, as you can see in this comparison. This can also be corroborated with additional data. Lion has the strongest abdominal muscles of all modern pantherines. Lions are noted to have relatively wider ilium than tigers, as they have a higher positive fourth principal component, PC for score, and a wider ilium is correlated to peculiarities on the abdominal wall muscles, and therefore lions would have the strongest abdominal wall muscles. The accuracy of this study. Scientists used phylogenetic analyses for the comparatives exhibited by the taxes of the principal components, based on molecular data from carnivorous supertree, used to ensure that the mean scores of the principal component PC of all species and the tree topology were concordant, which means the molecular data accuracy compensates for the lack of individuals on the samples, making it an accurate comparative regardless. Conclusion. Lions own a relatively greater, less square-shaped pubic bone, necessitating a broader ischium, exhibiting a relatively wider and more laterally flaring iliac blades, and a relatively wider ilium, while tigers exhibit a relatively more square-shaped pubic bone. Tiger fans are getting more and more desperate that all they can think about the tiger spine advantage is the interiliac angle. These pseudo-scientist wannabe experts is now claiming that a wider pelvis is a disadvantage. This is flat-out bad information and shouldn't be spread. First, we must understand how these two traits are two different things. A wider pelvis or more laterally flaring iliac blades is different than the interiliac angle. The lateral flare of the iliac blades provides increased surface area for muscle attachment, particularly for muscles involved in hip extension and abduction. Support for powerful hind limb musculature. This anatomical feature allows carnivores for better stability. The interiliac angle is the angle formed by the ilium as it articulates with the sacrum, holding it in place. However, one must also take into account there are much more involved in the pelvic girdle. Moreover, context matters here. This study only assesses specific measurements of the angle and then hypothesizes and assumes what behavior they will have in some specific movements. The final conclusion of this study was only hypothesize that a wider angle will cause slippage of the sacrum. No one is saying that this is unreliable, but all I'm saying is that this study only focused on the angle and nothing else, thus making this study highly flawed. Do these tiger fans actually believe cheetahs have stronger backs than lions, solely based on this one trait? The robustness of each parts in the pelvic girdle are never mentioned. Even the lion's auricular surface and sacral tuberosities in this data are significantly larger than tigers. This basically equals it. But of course, tiger fans only want you to keep peddling on this one aspect. Lions are basically wider, thicker and more robust everywhere in the pelvic girdle. This data is a continuation of this one. This new data highlights that the inner line contributes to enhancing the locking ability, making the presence of a W inner line more advantageous than the C inner line. In fact, the jaguar is the only big cat with a C-shaped inner line. Does this mean that the cheetah's back is stronger than that of the jaguar solely based on these few traits? Anyone who believes that a few advantages will result in an overall stronger back is not thinking clearly. Two traits will not make the cheetah's back stronger than that of the jaguar. especially if you're only focusing on just one aspect of a larger system. Furthermore, their respective pelvis robustness in this data was not mentioned. The lion's more robust pelvis produces robust spinal erectors, therefore provides better locking ability. As I have already provided earlier, a lion has more advantages over the tiger in the back area. Many people get the wrong impression that tigers have stronger hind legs because tigers can propel in the air easier and are more of a coordinated jumper. But this is only a misconception. The thinner, narrower back and chest, the longer, higher rear quarters of the tiger allow it to jump better. Tigers have weight distribution that is more balanced. Its longer hind quarters are propelling a lighter front frame. Lions have stronger biceps and hind limbs than tigers. Contrary to popular notion, tigers do not have stronger hind limbs than lions. It is a big mistake to draw conclusions without evidence, as there are many misconceptions perpetuated by mainstream media. The morphospace plot favors the lion over the tiger, showing it displays a greater positive number in the BBL, FMI, and by parameters, but the former by advantageous on the tiger given the fact lower scores are considered better in terms of robusticity. Even though only one specimen for each species are used in the study, the morphospace plot already makes it conclusive enough. They not only play a central role in morphometrics, but also underlie the notion of adaptative landscapes that drives theoretical considerations in evolutionary biology. Basically, the values given for the animals can be used as accurate comparisons, since the morphospace plot compares their adaptative landscapes. Lions have stronger biceps and hind limbs than tigers, given their evolutionary and landscapes adaptations, making them more prone to flex and supinate their forearms, and having greater capabilities of heavy loading on their hind limbs. And yes, according to this data, lions have relatively the strongest hind limbs than any big cat. Did you know? The bicep muscle is attached to the scapula. This further solidifies the notion that the lion has the stronger upper arm area. Not only that, but the lion's teres major is stronger than that of the tiger. Lions have the greatest neck robustness of modern living felines, considering absolute terms. Based on the available data, lions possess relatively stronger neck muscles compared to tigers, jaguars, and leopards, making this specific muscle group the most powerful within the pantherine genus. From a massive to neck robustness and bite force neck robustness ratio, even with the skulls being adjusted to lion's skull size, the lion had the upper hand. Note that, even though a diverse sample is used, the skull sizes given in these graphs show the lion's skull of similar length is still proportionally, or absolutely, it has a superior neck musculature or robustness.
The record circumference of the chest belongs to a tiger. Bazonghat, also known as T46 post-mortem report. He had a chest of a whopping 188 cm in girth. You could argue he was bloated, but that's a bit debatable only during the time of measure. No lion, I mean none, has come close to this number, even giving him an estimate of about 160 centimeters due to the once again ambiguous bloating.
But what the hell, boy?
The chest, also known as the pectoralis muscle. It is important to note that when considering the chest, one typically thinks of the entire chest girth measurement. However, the majority of this measurement does not represent the entire chest. Rather, it pertains specifically to the widest part of the torso. The chest is situated mostly at the front, or the cranioventral aspect of the rib cage. Lions and tigers exhibit several anatomical differences, one of which is the structure of their rib cages. Tigers have narrower and less robust rib cage than lions. A larger lungs will have a larger thoracic cavity. This hypothesis is supported by scientific-based evidence. In general, larger lungs can enhance respiratory efficiency by increasing vital capacity, or the maximum amount of air that can be exhaled after taking a deep breath, thereby necessitating a correspondingly larger rib cage to facilitate this function. Larger organs require more space within the thoracic cavity. Therefore, if lions have significantly larger lungs and heart, it stands to reason that their rib cages would also be proportionally larger to accommodate these organs. Now that you all are aware that tigers possess significantly smaller lungs and heart, I will provide more data demonstrating how these smaller organs contribute to a smaller cranial part of the rib cage. It should come to no surprise why tigers have larger endocranial volume due to their bigger brain. The tiger's cranial part of the thoracic rib cage is smaller. The narrowing of the first rib is attributed to the tiger's smaller costal cartilage, and another study further solidifying the shorter cartilage. This rib features a smaller costal cartilage that is oriented inward. However, it's important to note the differences, particularly regarding the width of the lion and tiger's cranial rib cage. By knowing the difference is crucial, as a shorter cartilage will influence the width and depth of the rib cage, which is an undeniable fact. Another raw data for the tiger's second rib, you can notice its freakishly small costal cartilage. The tiger's rib cage is often depicted as having a rib cage that does not go further down more than the lion. The tiger's significantly smaller heart and lungs may definitely be the reason why their chests are like this. This will also influence neck size, and you can see how tiger's neck is no match against the lion. Here you can see an actual lion skeleton. These bones come from lions killed in legal hunts. In this case, the lion's costal cartilage is longer, broader, more robust, and extends deeper. Additionally, this larger costal cartilage necessitates a broader sternum. The lion's sternum is bigger and stronger than the tiger's. The sternum, commonly referred to as the breastbone, exhibits notable differences in size and shape between lions and tigers. The lion's sternum is characterized by a triangular shape, while the tiger possesses a more rounded sternum. Why is a triangular breastbone stronger? A triangular structure can provide better resistance to bending forces due to its geometric properties. Triangles are the strongest shape. When a force is added to a triangle, it spreads evenly through all three sides. Smilodon and Panthera atrox both possess a triangular sternum as well. Furthermore, the tiger's sternum is not only rounder, but more slender than the lion. The lion has the most robust clavicle among any modern pantherines. The clavicle, or the collarbone, flexibility comes with the size of the collarbone, and the lion having the most robust clavicle provides stability in the pectoral girdle. This study in question explains why sexual dimorphism cannot explain the marked difference not just between lions and tigers, but between both types of lion and all other forms of felid. The difference, therefore, seems much too significant to attribute to sexual dimorphism, and even to entertain that notion for a moment. The felids for which males and females were included did exhibit strong sex-based differences, although none of the museums have clavicular specimens assigned to male tigers.
It doesn't matter!
And only one of the lion specimens was recorded as a female. However, the single female lion in this comparative sample has among the largest clavicles. Therefore, sexual dimorphism could not be excluded as a possible explanation for the dimorphism exhibited in the fossil clavicle sample, and the differences between the clavicles of the two large modern pantherines and the two fossil morphs seems too far exceed the levels of sexual dimorphism exhibited in other skeletal elements of modern felids. Therefore, evidence suggests that the dimorphism in Horancio lobre of felid clavicle morphology exhibited is not sexual but taxonomic. The lion's clavicle isn't only longer, but also the fact that the bone is more curved significantly and broader not only in total, but relatively, it is sufficient to state that the lion possessed the most robust clavicle among any big cat, as indicated by this phylogenetic analysis. The clavicle is embedded 2/3 of the clavicular intersection. Many uninformed tiger fans believe that the clavicle serves no purpose and has no muscles attached to it. The lack of intelligence from tiger fans is obvious. The lion having the most robust clavicle will exhibit the most robust brachiocephalicus muscle among any big cat. You may be confused and ask this question: is this supposed to be the bicep? The short answer is no. However, if you would like to know the location of the bicep muscle, I recommend watching this video. The phrase, "it has a slight attachment to the acromion process of the scapula," the other end terminating in the muscles of the chest, indicates that while one end of the clavicle connects to the acromion process via ligament, its other end, or the sternal, attaches indirectly through muscular connections located in the chest area. In essence, when discussing cats with no functional clavicular joint, it's important to note, while they may lack a traditional connection through a joint mechanism, any remaining fibrous tissue or rudimentary bone still connects these to anatomical landmarks.
This is where we hold them. This is where we fight. This is where they die.
Bring the crowns and heads of conquered kings to my city steps. You insult my queen. You threaten my people with slavery and death.
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
This is Sparta!
I have seen many people, even lion fans, commit the same mistake when they think about the chest. They automatically brought up chest girth as if it were the right answer. Chest girth is barely even the chest muscle, when it's actually the clavicle that influences the breadth of the cat's chest muscle. The lion possesses the most robust clavicle of any modern big cat, which are significantly more curved than those found in any other members of the Felidae family. This anatomical feature implies that the area where muscles attach is larger in lions. In fact, the sternal end of a lion's clavicle is broader than that of fossilized cats.
In general, the chest is bigger in tigers, and their upper body is overall thicker and more robust in appearance, while lions are typically thicker and more robust at the rear. Link to charts for chest girths will be in the description. All they do is misinterpret most of the data or take them way out of context. It's very predictable. Basically, this tiger fan wannabe expert is trying to imply that the tiger's forelimb bones is more robust than its own hind limbs. Therefore, the tiger should be built more front heavy. All of the species situated above the dash lines have forelimb bones that are more robust than their hind limbs. The puma is one of the species in this plot that has forelimb bones that are more robust than its hind limbs. If we follow his reasoning, it would suggest that the puma is built more front-heavy than the lion. Even the femur bone of the extinct species of Smilodon fatalis has a more robust femur relative to the humerus in this data. Does this mean tigers have heavier front quarters than the Smilodon?
Hell no! No! No!
Tiger fans are playing wannabe scientists with many data. What they are trying to imply is not even remotely close to what the study suggests. This is just a morphological limb comparison between their forelimb bones relative to their hind limb bones. Therefore, it doesn't prove anything in relation to their whole front quarters relative to the rear quarters.
That is one big pile of shit.
What?